If you don't mind, I have a question for you. Have you researched the historical accounts of Jesus and also the historical accounts of the Bible origins? And I'm not talking about the King James, much love. Yes, there's much older versions of the Bible than King James. There's Bibles written in Greek, there's Bibles written in different languages that predate King James. And some of the oldest stories or historical accounts that we have, from what I've researched, anyways, is stuff like the Sinai Bible, and then there's stuff like they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. They found, I mean, there's the Hebrew Bibles, which all predate King James, and then there's the cuneiform tablets, which are some of the oldest historical documents discovered by archaeologists. And some of the ones that stand out a lot are going to be the discovery of King Ashurbanipal's library. So Ashurbanipal was an Assyrian king, and his library was discovered and excavated when they found the city of Nineveh. And this was in the 1800s when archaeologist George Smith excavated this. The excavation took like 70 years, but they found a library with over 10,000 of these cuneiform tablets. And then in the tablets, they found a lot of the biblical stories from the Old Testament. And they were written in this writing style called cuneiform. And these things date back thousands of years before the Romans invented Christianity, and thousands and thousands of years before the King James Bible and the corporate religious industrial complex, took this thing and just did a worldwide marketing campaign out of it. But when you read the translations of the cuneiform stuff, what you'll find is that the King James Bible is wrong. Like, it is straight up wrong, mistranslated. They edited a bunch of stuff out. They removed a bunch of really important details and just left it very vague and intentionally mistranslated, and intentionally put a bunch of lies and deceit in there in order to trick and enslave humanity. But some of the really significant tablets that they found in Ashurbanipal's library was the Enuma Elish, also known as the Seven Tablets of Creation. They found the Atrahasis, which is a story of the fall of man and also the Great Flood. They also like the Epic of Gilgamesh is in there, and they also found the Ancient Sumerian Kings List, which is a genealogy record dating back over 100,000 years. And then there's also stuff that is more recently channeled and transcribed, like the Voyagers book series by Ashayana Dean, and her historical account of all this stuff goes back into the millions of years. And a lot of the stuff that's in our Bibles today, they're kind of like spin-offs of all these ancient historical documents and cuneiform tablets, and then even like Hebrew writings, and then stuff in Greek. Another one that is a really good source to get a lot of the translations that were mistranslated from Hebrew into English is there's a translator who used to work for a publishing company that was basically the Vatican's publishing company. Like, it was a huge publishing company endorsed by the Vatican. His name's Mauro Biglino, and he actually got censored a lot for exposing all the mistranslations and what the Hebrew stuff really meant. But he's got 3 books out. One of the first one I'd recommend you check out, it's called The Book That Will Forever Change Our Ideas About the Bible, and that is by Mauro Biglino. He also has a book called The Naked Bible, and then he has another book called The Gods of the Bible. And he makes it very simple, even for an NPC robot to understand, because he does a side-by-side comparison of what the Hebrew version said, what it really means, and then shows you how it was translated in English, and he proves it without a doubt that the English version is wrong. Like, they just mixed up all the words and gave them definitions that don't fit the actual Hebrew translations. And then back to referring back to the discovery in Ashurbanipal's library. So the cuneiform tablets that they found, these were all from the era of the Sumerian, Akkadian, and then the Assyrian mythologies. And these quote unquote gods or deities of Akkadian, Assyrian, and Sumerian, these are also referred to as the Anunnaki, sometimes referred to as the Elohim. But these translations of who these beings were, we have a great detail of information on them now, with all kinds of details on exactly who they were. We have their whole genealogy. We have even information on which star systems they came from and which star systems they were affiliated with and which other ones they were at war with, and the rivalries between these different races of highly advanced beings. And for the most part, what they did is they terraformed the Earth world, and they took advantage of a primitive species, which was known as the hominid, or think of like a very early primitive upright walking humanoid, kind of like a Neanderthal or a Homo erectus or a hominid. And they spliced their DNA with that really primitive upright walking humanoid to create us, the human Homo sapiens. So we got a little genetic upgrade, and this is where the Genesis comes from. It comes from these beings that terraformed Earth, and they're dating back hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years ago that they came down here and started doing these genetic experiments. And there's been other races too that have done all kinds of genetic experiments for into the millions of years. But this is where like the origins of the Bible comes from. It comes from extraterrestrials or highly advanced beings that were not originally from the Earth world, that came here either through a portal like a Stargate technology or by space travel technology, and they terraformed and they started creating and genetic engineering species, plant species, animal species, insect species, and also humanoid species through hybridization experiments, and it's just different hybrids. So technically we are a hybrid because they took some of their DNA and then they spliced it with that primitive upright walking humanoid. That's why it says in Genesis, or let us create man in our image, and it's referring to the Elohim, which is plural. And then when it says let us create mankind in our image, that's a reference to DNA. So we have some of the DNA of these Anunnaki in us, and we also have some of the DNA of this more primitive hominid upright walking humanoid in us. So we're hybrids, and that's the origins of the Bible. That's where it comes from. For the most part, the modern day Bible is just kind of like a spin-off and a work of plagiarism. There's also a lot of stuff that you'll find in the Bible, in the New Testament, which is just a spin-off of Egyptian, especially stuff like the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, who is also known as Thoth by the Atlanteans and the Egyptians. A lot of the stuff in the New Testament is just spin-offs of the teachings of Thoth the Atlantean and Hermes Trismegistus. And there's also stuff that was straight up just copied and plagiarized from the Egyptian Book of the Dead that they put into the New Testament and attributed it to Jesus. And I've actually done videos, like if you scroll down long enough on my TikTok, you'll find I've done a lot of videos about some of these things. But those are the origins of the Bible, the King James Bible. It's basically like a mix of and the hijacking of a whole bunch of really, really ancient wisdom and ancient knowledge and ancient text written in all kinds of different writing styles and different languages, dating back, and the history goes back into the hundreds of thousands of years. Some of it goes back into the millions of years. And the corporate religious industrial complex is what I call it. But this also, a lot of it started with the Council of Nicaea, which is basically just a bunch of Roman political hustlers that decided to use these narratives and these deities and these ancient texts and create a religion out of it in order to control and enslave and brainwash people. And that establishment of these religions is still in place, enslaving people and brainwashing people to this day. They do this through Hegelian dialectics, through fear-mongering, through war, through manipulation, psychological manipulation of consciousness. And finally now, like, a lot of people are starting to wake up to it, especially with the discovery of things like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the cuneiform tablets, the teachings of Thoth and Hermes Trismegistus starting to get shared more and more translations being put on the internet. So now people are starting to figure it out. It's like the puzzle pieces are all coming together, and it's very complex. It's very ancient. It dates back way farther than most people think. And it is the hijacking of a whole bunch of ancient knowledge from all kinds of different time periods, different languages, different cultures, and so on and so on.